The coffee shop barista giggles to her coworker. "Look at this homeless guy trying to act like he's military with that raggedy old jacket." 52-year-old Master Sergeant Daniel Rivera adjusts his worn field jacket as the young woman behind the counter points and laughs at what she assumes is a costume, not recognizing the faded 82nd Airborne patch sewn onto the sleeve. Her mocking smile disappears when she notices the small purple heart pin barely visible on his collar, a medal earned during 3 tours in Afghanistan, where he lost half his squad, saving a village full of children. What this veteran reveals about that faded patch will silence the entire coffee shop and teach everyone a lesson about judging by appearances. If stories of hidden heroes inspire you, hit that subscribe button and share in the comments about someone who showed you that courage comes in unexpected packages. This warrior's truth demands to be heard. Daniel had been walking for 2 hours in the cold November rain, trying to find somewhere warm to sit while waiting for his job interview at 3 o'clock. The construction company said to meet at their office downtown, but Daniel arrived early and needed to kill time without spending money he didn't have. The coffee shop looked busy and warm, perfect for nursing a single cup of coffee for an hour. The barista, a college-aged girl with purple streaks in her hair and a name tag reading Madison, nudges her coworker and points at Daniel as he approaches the counter. She whispers loud enough for nearby customers to hear that another homeless person is coming in to loiter and probably ask for free drinks or use their bathroom as a shelter. Madison's coworker, a young man named Tyler, looks Daniel up and down and shakes his head in disapproval. He tells Madison that these people need to understand that businesses aren't charity shelters, and they should go to actual homeless services instead of bothering paying customers who just want to enjoy their coffee in peace. Daniel reaches the counter and politely asks for a small black coffee, pulling out exact change from his jacket pocket. Madison rolls her eyes dramatically and tells Tyler that at least this one actually has money, unlike most of the street people who come in expecting handouts and making the place smell like they haven't showered in weeks. A well-dressed woman sitting at a nearby table looks up from her laptop and makes a disgusted face at Daniel's appearance. She whispers to her friend that the quality of customers in this neighborhood has really gone downhill, and maybe they should find a different coffee shop that has better security and standards for who they allow inside. Madison pours Daniel's coffee with obvious reluctance and slides it across the counter while asking Tyler if they should implement some kind of dress code to keep undesirable people from driving away their regular customers. She suggests that people should have to meet basic hygiene and clothing standards before being served in a respectable establishment. Daniel thanks Madison for the coffee and moves toward an empty table near the window, hoping to sit quietly and review his resume before the job interview. As he passes a table of college students, one of them makes a comment about the smell of wet clothing and unwashed people who don't understand social boundaries. The college student, a young woman wearing expensive designer clothes, tells her friends that she feels sorry for people like Daniel, but wishes they would seek help from proper agencies, instead of making normal people uncomfortable in public spaces. Her friend agrees and adds that enabling this behavior by serving them just encouraged more homeless people to treat businesses like personal shelters. Daniel sits down and tries to ignore the whispered conversations happening around him, focusing instead on his job application paperwork. His field jacket, worn but clean, carries the weight of memories from 3 deployments overseas. The 82nd Airborne patch on his sleeve has faded from years of washing, but the pride it represents remains as strong as the day he earned it. Madison continues her commentary from behind the counter, telling Tyler that she doesn't understand why homeless people always wear military surplus clothing. She claims that most of them probably bought the jackets from thrift stores and pretend to be veterans to get sympathy and handouts from gullible people who feel guilty about not serving in the military themselves. Tyler agrees enthusiastically and adds that real veterans wouldn't let themselves end up living on the streets. because they have discipline and resources available through the government. He suggests that anyone wearing military gear who looks homeless is probably lying about their service record and taking advantage of people's respect for genuine soldiers. A middle-aged businessman at another table speaks up, saying that stolen valor is a serious problem and people should be more skeptical of anyone claiming military service without proper documentation. He tells his lunch companion that true veterans are proud, dignified people who don't beg for money or loiter in coffee shops looking for handouts. Madison decides to escalate her performance for the growing audience. She walks over to Daniel's table and tells him that the coffee shop has a policy about loitering, and customers are expected to finish their drinks and leave within 30 minutes. She adds that they're not a homeless shelter and can't have people camping out all day without buying food or additional beverages. Daniel looks up from his paperwork and quietly explains that he's waiting for a job interview and will leave as soon as he finishes his coffee. Madison scoffs and tells him that everyone has sob stories and excuses, but business owners have to protect their paying customers from uncomfortable situations and unpleasant odors. The well-dressed woman with the laptop approaches Daniel's table and tells him that his presence is making other customers uncomfortable. She suggests that he should find somewhere more appropriate to wait, like a public library or homeless shelter, instead of imposing on people who are trying to work and relax in a clean, safe environment. Daniel starts to respond, but Madison interrupts and points at his jacket while announcing to the entire coffee shop that she's tired of fake veterans wearing military surplus clothing to gain sympathy. She declares that real soldiers don't end up homeless and desperate, and people who claim military service should be required to prove their credentials before receiving any special treatment. The college students join the conversation, with one of them saying that her boyfriend is in the National Guard and would be offended by people like Daniel, who probably never served but wear military clothing to trick generous Americans into giving them money and respect they haven't earned. Daniel stands up slowly and looks around at all the faces staring at him with judgment and disgust. For a moment, the coffee shop fades away and he's back in the mountains of Afghanistan on August 23, 2011. He can smell the smoke and cordite. He can hear children screaming from inside the schoolhouse that insurgents had booby-trapped with explosives. He can feel the weight of 8-year-old Fatima in his arms as he carried her away from the burning building. His voice is quiet, but steady when he tells Madison and the watching crowd about that day in Helmand Province. How his squad was providing security for a medical team treating sick children in a remote village school. How Taliban fighters had rigged the building with explosives, planning to kill the American soldiers and medical personnel along with dozens of innocent children. Daniel describes how the first explosion killed Sergeant Martinez instantly and trapped 15 children under collapsed concrete and burning debris. How he and his remaining squad members ran into the unstable building, while automatic weapon fire erupted from the surrounding hills. Knowing that more explosives could detonate at any moment, the coffee shop begins to quiet as Daniel's voice carries the weight of truth and pain. He explains how he made 4 trips into that burning schoolhouse, pulling children from the rubble while his squad provided covering fire against enemy fighters positioned on nearby ridgelines. How Corporal Johnson died shielding 2 little girls from falling debris during the second building collapse. Madison's mocking expression fades as Daniel continues his story. He tells them about carrying Fatima, who had lost both legs in the explosion, 3 miles to the medical evacuation helicopter while enemy snipers targeted their movement. How Private Williams was shot through the chest while protecting the wounded children during their desperate march to safety. The businessman who had talked about stolen valor stares at Daniel's jacket with growing understanding. The college students have stopped their whispered conversations entirely. The well-dressed woman closes her laptop and listens in stunned silence as Daniel describes the loss of 6 soldiers from his 12-man squad during that rescue operation. Daniel's hand moves to the faded 82nd Airborne patch on his sleeve, explaining that he earned the right to wear it through 3 combat deployments and 8 years of active duty service. He tells them about jumping out of airplanes at night into hostile territory, about losing friends whose names are carved on a black granite wall in Washington, D.C., the Purple Heart pin on his collar, barely visible beneath the worn fabric, represents the shrapnel wound he received while carrying wounded children to safety. Daniel explains that the medal came with a medical discharge and a disability rating that covers his basic needs, but doesn't provide enough income for decent housing in an expensive city. Madison approaches Daniel's table with tears in her eyes and tries to apologize for her cruel words and assumptions. Daniel shakes his head gently and explains that apologies aren't necessary, but understanding is important. He tells her that homelessness among veterans is a complex problem that can't be solved by judgment or stereotypes. Tyler comes out from behind the counter and asks Daniel about his upcoming job interview, offering to put in a good word with local construction companies if his application doesn't work out. The businessman quietly pays for Daniel's coffee and leaves a $20 tip, unable to meet his eyes as he mumbles an apology for his earlier comments. The college students approach Daniel and ask about ways they can support veteran services in their community. The well-dressed woman inquires about volunteer opportunities at the local VA hospital. Madison offers Daniel free coffee and meals whenever he needs them, promising that he'll always be welcome in their establishment. Daniel gathers his paperwork and prepares to leave for his job interview, but pauses to address the crowd one final time. He tells them that Fatima survived her injuries and now attends university in Kabul, studying to become a teacher. That Sergeant Martinez's daughter just graduated from high school. That the 6 soldiers who died saving those children believed their sacrifice would make the world safer for innocent people everywhere. As Daniel walks toward the exit, every person in the coffee shop stands in respectful silence. Some salute awkwardly. Others simply watch with newfound understanding as a genuine American hero heads out into the cold rain to interview for a construction job that will help him rebuild his life with dignity and independence. The next week, Madison starts a fundraising campaign at the coffee shop to support homeless veterans in their community. Tyler enrolls in night classes to study social work and veteran services. And Daniel begins his new job, knowing that respect and understanding can grow from the seeds of truth, even when planted in the soil of initial prejudice and misunderstanding. What this veteran reveals about that faded patch will silence the entire coffee shop and teach everyone a lesson about judging by appearances. If stories of hidden heroes inspire you, hit that subscribe button and share in the comments about someone who showed you that courage comes in unexpected packages. This warrior's truth demands to be heard.